Hey, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate your being here. Please subscribe down below and please comment. I would love to interact with you. I would love to have a dialogue with you, so please comment or track me down offline, send me an email. Let's talk about it. Subscribe, let's get together. Now, this is the second in a series. I'm not going to do any more from this particular show for a lot of reasons. The last one I showed you was the sliding knot effect. It's the same show. It was done in Lidditz, Pennsylvania in October of 1990. Let me give you a little bit of history about who I was and how I got to do this show. I was doing a part-time youth pastorate at Loch Raven United Methodist at the time. And one of the fun things about being a youth pastor is that you interact with other youth pastors and you get opportunities for ministry in other churches. And this was a church in Lidditz, Pennsylvania that asked me to come up and entertain their youth group, the younger ages. Now, I was primarily ministering to teenagers at Loch Raven. The crowd in this particular video is a bit younger than that, but I was pleased to go up and do that. And what you won't see, because this is not a partisan channel, this is not a sectarian channel, so I don't want to get into that kind of ideology. I probably will at some point because that's who I am. I have a particular ideology, and it comes out in various ways, and I'm not ashamed of it by any means. But I don't want to turn anyone off, so that's why I specifically want a nonpartisan, non-sectarian attitude when it comes to my presentations here. And you won't see the part of the video that is sectarian. But what I used to do back in those days, and it was a good market for me. I had a reputation among churches, and so they would bring me in, and I would do a little bit of magic, and then I would do a lesson, and or a sermonette, and so it was a good gig. I enjoyed it. Somebody I know made a living doing this. His name is Andre Cole. Now, if you're not familiar with Andre Cole, he is one of the great minds in magic, in my opinion, one of the great minds in magic history. For many years, he toured with, I think it's Campus Crusade for Christ. And he went college campuses. He went to college campuses all over the country. And he brought his full illusion show onto college campuses. Imagine, I went to see him. I'm a graduate of Towson University, by the way, 2 times over. My undergraduate degree is in psychology. By the way, I changed my major several times. I started out in journalism, and this was when I was at Essex Community College, and I ran their newspaper over there, the Montage, and I ran that paper for about 2 years. And then I transferred over to Towson University. And so I was studying journalism. I was studying writing because writing is something that is another passion of mine. And I have 2 books published at this point, 1 on the way. But so I was an undergraduate journalism major. And then I changed my major to education. First I was early childhood, didn't like that, and then I became elementary, didn't really like that, and then I became secondary, and I stayed in secondary for a while, and then I changed my major again to psychology because I thought psychology would be a good foundation for ministry, which is where I was bound. I was going out to seminary upon graduation. Turns out that I met my wife in an undergraduate psychology class called psychopharmacology. I was sick for a week with the flu. I think it was in January or February. And when I came back, I asked this young lady in my class if I could borrow her notes so that I could catch up on what I missed in the class. She graciously lent me her notes, and I said, I'd love to pay you back for your generosity. I'd love to take you out to dinner. And so the person who became my wife and I went out to dinner. We went to Bowman's and we saw Tess, the movie Tess, after. And, I fell in love first and she fell in love second. But we got married and we went out to Missouri, and Springfield, Missouri. I went to the Assemblies of God Theological Seminary. We were out there for almost 4 years while I worked on my MDiv. And I came back and really struggled to get a position in ministry. But Andre Cole had a ministry with Youth for Christ. He brought his show onto college campuses. And I saw his show at Towson University. George Goebel was sitting in the theater. I saw him sitting down there. I went down and said hello to him. But we both enjoyed the Andre Cole show. Now Andre Cole, if you've never seen Andre perform, you've probably seen his illusions, because David Copperfield has used his illusions. Most of the major illusionists working today have done or are doing his material. So he is a creative genius. And when I watch some of his material, even today, you know what? A lot of illusions to me, this is one of the reasons why I do mentalism. Because when I was starting in magic, illusions blew me away. They really did. Where did that person go? Where did he come from? How did he do that? I was blown away by grand illusion. But as I learned the secrets and as I learned the principles, they became less and less wonder producing for me. And I go where the wonder is. And if something creates wonder for me, I assume it will create wonder for my audiences, and that's why I've gravitated to mentalism, and that's why I do mentalism. But Andre Cole still creates grand illusion that blows people away, even people that are familiar with the general principles of grand illusion. So the guy's a genius. So he works the college circuit, and he does a Christian message when he performs. And so this is basically what I was doing back in the days when I did the Lidded show, back in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. That's when I was doing that kind of thing. And I performed for lots of churches. Here's what you do. You'd go into generally not the church sanctuary. Usually there was some kind of a fellowship hall or gymnasium or a place like that. So you'd go into a theater or a venue of this nature, and I would do a show and I would do a message. And so that's what this piece is out of. Now, let me tell you about the piece. It's called the Hippy Hop Rabbits. And Denny Haney used to say to me, David, don't do sucker effects. It's called a sucker effect because what a sucker effect does is it takes the audience down sort of a garden path. It leads the audience to believe one thing, but something else is actually happening. And so there's a sense of being had, if you will. It's almost like a sting, the way hustlers do it. That's one way to look at it. And Denny felt that it could be demeaning or offensive to an audience. That is one way to look at it. But let me tell you why this particular effect is important to me. And by the way, I've done a number of sucker effects in my career. I've done the spot card, which is many would consider a sucker effect. I have done the sliding die box. Many would consider that a sucker effect. One of the great effects that I used to do was the Chinese sticks. That's another one that's considered a sucker effect. I've done all of those things to great success. It's about your attitude. It's not about the effect. It's about your attitude presenting it. If you present that effect as a aha, gotcha type of thing, yeah, it's going to be demeaning. It's going to be offensive. If you present the effect as sort of a magical effect, the audience believes that they know the method, but you reveal that that wasn't the method after all, then there is a sense of wonder in the effect. That's the way George Goebel presented it to me. The last video I showed you, the sliding knot, Doug Henning performed that. I saw it. It produced wonder for me. That's why I wanted to perform it. This effect, I was 8 years old. I was sitting on the floor in a church auditorium. My dad, as the pack master, had hired George Goebel to come and entertain. And he was there entertaining. And he did this effect, the Hip Hop Rabbits. And I remember the experience, being 8 years old, sitting on the floor watching George Goebel do this and just being blown away by it. Just thinking, wow, that was fantastic. I didn't feel had. I didn't feel taken advantage of. I didn't feel offended. I loved it. And I wanted to give my audience the same sense of wonder that George Goebel had given me when I was 8 years old. So for a lot of years, I performed the Hip Hop Rabbits. I enjoyed it. You'll see the audience reaction. I love the fact that audiences get into this. Now, I think it's an appropriate effect for children. I have seen this effect done for adults. I was in Atlantic City. Denny Haney had invited me to come up and watch him entertain at the, I forget the name of the casino, but he was at a casino up in Atlantic City. He brought us up to see him. And the MC, and now Denny used to say, I don't want my MC doing magic, okay, because we got other magic acts on the bill. But the MC did the Hip Hop Rabbits, and the MC knew he wasn't going to get the reaction. The kids are uninhibited. Let's face it, they're uninhibited. They see you do something, they think they know how you do it, they're going to shout out. So that's part of what brings them into the effect. It's part of what makes it effective. Adult audiences don't do that. They pretend to be, they watch and they pretend to be polite and, oh, I see what he's doing, and they don't react the way children do. So you're not going to get the yelling and the screaming from an adult crowd that you will from kids. But he did it anyway, and I thought he did a good job. He did a good job because, when he got to the point, he would change them around, and he would kind of be his own heckler, which kind of worked. Anyway, folks, this is the Hip Hop Rabbits, and I hope you enjoy it. Thanks so much for joining me. Now, these rabbits are called the Hip Hop Rabbits, and they're called the Hip Hop Rabbits for a good reason, because they hop back and forth in a very mysterious way. Now, in this cylinder, I have a black rabbit. And in this cylinder, I have a white rabbit. The names of the rabbits are Hip and Hop, but for the life of me, I can't tell which is which. But here's what they do. Watch very closely. I'm going to put the black rabbit inside the black tube. And I want you to notice that he's black on both sides. And I'm going to put the white rabbit inside the white tube. And I want you to notice that he is white on both sides. Now watch very closely. Hip Hop. And before your very eyes, the white rabbit appears in the black tube. And the black rabbit appears in the white tube. Thank you. Thank you. We'll see it one more time. Okay. Let's go firstly. So, I'm going to put the black rabbit in the black tube. And we'll put the white rabbit in the white tube. And I want you to notice that the white rabbit is white on both sides, and the black rabbit is black on both sides. Now watch very closely. Hip Hop. And before your very eyes, the black rabbit appears in the white tube. And the white rabbit appears in the black tube. There's nothing back here. Okay.